Juniper Nash's fingers danced across the holographic display, adjusting the environmental controls in her experimental greenhouse. The massive dome stretched above her, filled with alien flora that pulsed and swayed in the artificial breeze. Beyond its transparent walls, the purple skis of Kepler 447b stretched endlessly, 3 moons hanging like pearls in the perpetual twilight. She checked her holographic mask's charge, 89%. Plenty of time before she needed to retreat to her quarters for a recharge. The mask was her shield, projecting an unremarkable human face to the world, hiding the network of plasma burns that marked her real features. The research station's AI rarely commented on it anymore, having learned early that the topic was strictly off-limits. "Dr. Nash," the AI's voice echoed through the dome, "the Lumina flowers are showing increased bioluminescence, perhaps a response to the modified soil composition." "Run a full-spectrum analysis, Phoenix," Juniper replied, approaching the cluster of ghost-white flowers that emitted a soft blue glow. Their petals unfurled like crystalline fans, reaching toward her as if sensing her presence. These flowers were her latest breakthrough plants that could potentially provide sustainable lighting for deep space colonies. The isolation suited her. Here among her plants, she didn't have to see the way people's eyes would drift to her mask, didn't have to endure their poorly concealed curiosity or worse, their pity. The accident at her previous lab on Mars had left her more than just physically scarred. It had taught her that brilliance wasn't enough to earn respect in the scientific community. Appearances mattered too much. Her comm unit chimed and she sighed. "Monthly check-in with Earth Control. Patch it through, Phoenix." "Dr. Nash," Director Harrison's hologram materialized beside her workstation. "Your latest reports on the Lumina project are impressive. The board is considering increasing your funding." "Thank you, Director." Juniper kept her responses clipped, professional. Even through holographic communication, she maintained her distance. "However," Harrison continued, "they have concerns about your isolation. A project of this magnitude typically requires a team." Juniper's hands stilled over her samples. "I work better alone. The results speak for themselves." "They do, but science is about collaboration, Dr. Nash. We're sending a research consultant. Dr. Walker should arrive within the week." The sample container in Juniper's hand slipped, nearly shattering on the floor. "Director, I must object." "It's already decided. Earth Control out." The hologram faded, leaving Juniper standing amid her precious plants, her sanctuary about to be invaded. She reached up, fingers brushing against the smooth surface of her holographic mask. For 3 years, she'd built her reputation on her research alone, letting her work speak louder than her appearance. Now someone would be here, watching, judging, asking questions she wasn't ready to answer. Phoenix's voice broke through her spiraling thoughts. "Dr. Nash, your heart rate has elevated. Shall I adjust the environmental controls for your comfort?" "No," she said firmly, straightening her shoulders. "But bring up everything we have on Dr. Walker. If they're sending someone to evaluate my work, I want to be prepared." As data streams filled the air around her, Juniper returned to her Lumina flowers. They pulsed with a stronger blue light, almost as if responding to her distress. She'd learned to hide her face, but she couldn't hide her brilliance. Maybe it was time to prove that her mask wasn't the most interesting thing about her. The question was she ready to let someone else see that too? The warning sirens pierced the quiet of Juniper's greenhouse just before dawn. She jolted awake in her study nook, datapad sliding from her lap as Phoenix's urgent voice filled the chamber. "Dr. Nash, unscheduled atmospheric entry detected. A vessel is approaching with severe damage to its navigation systems." Juniper rushed to the observatory deck, her mask automatically adjusting to the bright emergency lights. Through the reinforced windows, she spotted it, a sleek diplomatic shuttle tumbling through Kepler 447b's thick atmosphere, trailing smoke and debris. "They're not going to make the landing pad," she muttered, calculations racing through her mind. "Phoenix, activate the emergency tractor fields." The research station's defensive systems hummed to life, invisible beams reaching out to cradle the falling ship. It was like watching someone try to catch a burning feather with strings of light. The shuttle scraped across the station's outer shield, sending sparks cascading into the purple dawn before finally settling onto the auxiliary landing pad. Juniper hesitated at the airlock. She hadn't faced an unexpected visitor in 3 years. Her hand instinctively went to her mask's control panel, double-checking its stability. "Life signs?" she asked. "One passenger unconscious but stable," Phoenix reported. "Identity confirmed as Dr. Zeth Walker of Earth Diplomatic Corps." Her stomach dropped. The consultant wasn't supposed to arrive for days, and certainly not like this. The airlock cycled open, and Juniper stepped through, medical kit in hand. The shuttle's hull was still cooling, crackling with residual heat as she approached. The door was jammed, but a few commands to her engineering tool set had it groaning open. Inside, slumped over the controls, was a man in a diplomat's uniform, a gash across his forehead slowly seeping blood. "Dr. Walker," Juniper kept her voice professional detached as she checked his vitals. "Can you hear me?" He stirred, eyes fluttering open, startlingly green against his dark skin. "Either I made it," he groaned, "or the afterlife has excellent medical care." "You're alive, though your ship might disagree." Juniper helped him sit up, nodding how he winced. "What happened?" "Micrometeorite storm knocked out my navigation array." He tried to stand, swayed, and grabbed her shoulder for support. The casual contact made her stiffen. "I'm Zeth. You must be the brilliant Dr. Nash." "You should report to medical," she said, stepping away. "Phoenix can guide you." "Wait," his voice was gentle, curious rather than demanding. "I've read all your papers on bioengineered sustainability. The way you've hybridized Earth plants with alien species is revolutionary. I was hoping we could discuss." "Medical first," she cut him off. "Then we can discuss whatever Earth controls sent you to evaluate." He frowned. "Evaluate? I'm not here to evaluate anything. I'm here to learn. Your work could save colonies across 3 systems." Juniper paused at the airlock. For once, someone was looking at her with neither pity nor suspicion, just genuine intellectual interest. It was unsettling. "Rest," she said finally. "Phoenix will show you to your quarters. We can talk about the research tomorrow." As she walked back to her greenhouse, Juniper found her thoughts scattered like seeds in the wind. She'd prepared for judgment, for scrutiny, for the subtle recoil when people noticed her mask. She hadn't prepared for respect. In the dome, her lumina flowers were blooming, their light stronger than ever. One brush of her fingers across their petals sent waves of blue luminescence dancing through the cluster. Beautiful things, she'd learned, often grew from darkness. "Phoenix," she called out, "bring up the latest hybridization data. If Dr. Walker wants to learn, let's make sure we have something worth teaching." The AI complied, filling the air with shimmering data streams. Tomorrow would bring questions, challenges, the discomfort of a new presence in her carefully ordered world. But tonight, in the gentle glow of her achievements, Juniper allowed herself to wonder if change didn't always have to mean loss. A week passed, and Juniper found her carefully structured routine shifting like sand beneath her feet. Zeth wasn't what she'd expected. He moved through her greenhouse with careful respect, asking intelligent questions about her research, taking detailed notes, and most surprisingly, treating her mask as if it were simply another piece of laboratory equipment. "These soil samples are fascinating," he said one morning, examining a container of purplish earth under a molecular scanner. "The mineral composition shouldn't support photosynthesis, but your hybridized plants are thriving." Juniper adjusted the scanner's settings, conscious of how close they were standing. The Lumina species adapted to absorb energy from Kepler's magnetic field. I simply helped Earth vegetables learn the same trick. "Simply," Zeth laughed, the sound warm and genuine. "You rewrote their genetic code to thrive in alien soil. That's like teaching fish to breathe fire." A small smile tugged at her lips, hidden behind the mask. "Actually, I'm working on something similar with deep-sea vegetation." Their days fell into a rhythm. Mornings were spent in the experimental gardens, afternoons analyzing data, and evenings had become something unexpected. Zeth would bring dinner to the observation deck, and they would talk, not just about science, but about Earth, the colonies, music, art, everything she'd locked away with her old face. "Why diplomatic corps?" she asked one evening, watching the triple moonrise paint the sky in shades of silver and gold. "You clearly have the mind of a scientist." Zeth considered, twirling his fork through synthesized pasta. "Science tells us how things work. Diplomacy tells us how people work. I've always thought we needed both." He glanced at her. "What about you? Why choose the most remote research station in the sector?" Juniper turned away, her mask's projection flickering slightly with her tension. "The plants don't care what I look like." "Neither do I," his voice was soft, matter of fact. "I care about the mind behind the work, the passion that drives someone to rewrite the rules of biology. Everything else is just packaging." Before she could respond, Phoenix's urgent voice filled the room. "Dr. Nash, critical alert in Greenhouse 3. The stellar vine sample is showing signs of rapid deterioration." They rushed to the greenhouse. The stellar vine, a rare species that could grow in zero gravity, was her most ambitious project. Its silvery tendrils, usually glistening with bioluminescent sap, were turning a sickly gray. "No, no, no," Juniper muttered, hands flying over the diagnostic panel. "The magnetic field harmonics are destabilizing its cellular structure." Zeth was already at the environmental controls. "Could we modulate the field, create a buffer zone?" "The calculations would take hours, by then." "Not with two of us." He pulled up a holographic interface. "You handle the biological variables, I'll work on the field equations." They worked in seamless synchronization, numbers and formulas flowing between them like a dance. Juniper found herself anticipating his questions, finishing his calculations, their minds meeting in the space between theory and solution. 3 hours later, the stellar vine's color began to restore, its gentle glow returning stronger than before. "We did it," Zeth breathed, exhausted but smiling. "Your knowledge of xenobotany combined with my field mechanics, we actually did it." Juniper stared at the plant, then at their shared work displayed in the air between them. For the first time in years, she'd forgotten to maintain her distance, forgotten to hide behind professional detachment. In the heat of discovery, she'd simply been herself. She started, then stopped, uncertain. "You're brilliant," Zeth said simply, "and brilliance doesn't need a mask." He left her there, surrounded by the soft light of her rescued plants. Juniper reached up, touching the smooth surface that had been her shield for so long. In its reflection, she saw not just her projected face, but the data streams of their shared triumph, the evidence that perhaps she was more than what she hid. The stellar vine curled one tendril toward her, its light pulsing like a question. Or perhaps, she thought, like an answer she wasn't quite ready to hear. The magnetic storm hit without warning. Kepler 447b's unstable atmosphere erupted in waves of energy that lit up the purple sky like angry veins of lightning. Inside the research station, alarms blared as systems struggled to compensate. "Shield integrity at 60% and falling," Phoenix reported. "Electromagnetic interference is disrupting the station's protective fields." Juniper raced through her greenhouse, securing samples and activating emergency stasis fields around her most delicate specimens. The lumina flowers pulsed erratically, their blue glow flickering like frightened heartbeats. "Where's Zeth?" she demanded, steadying herself as another wave rocked the station. "Dr. Walker is in Greenhouse 4, attempting to stabilize the environmental controls." Her blood ran cold. Greenhouse 4 housed the atmospheric processors, the station's lungs. If they failed, the whole facility would suffocate. She ran, her boots clanging against metal corridors as the lights flickered overhead. She found Zeth at the main control panel, his hands moving frantically over the controls. Sparks flew from overloaded circuits, and the air crackled with loose energy. "The processors are failing," he shouted over the alarm, "if we don't redirect power." A massive surge hit the station. Juniper's mask flickered, its holographic field destabilizing. She clutched at the control panel, trying to maintain its power flow, but she knew what was coming. The mask used the same power systems as the station's basic functions. It was either her mask or their air. Zeth saw her hesitation. Juniper, we need all auxiliary power to the processors. I can't, she started, one hand still protectively near her mask's control panel. Another surge, the processor's readings turned red. Warning lights flashed, oxygen levels dropping. In that moment, Juniper saw everything with stark clarity. Her mask, her shield, her hiding place, it was drawing power they desperately needed. All her life's work, all her breakthroughs would mean nothing if the station failed. If Zeth died because she couldn't face being seen. With trembling fingers, she reached for her mask's emergency release. "Don't look," she whispered and shut down the holographic field. The power redirect was immediate. Auxiliary systems surged into the processors, stabilizing the oxygen recyclers. Juniper kept her face turned away, hands flying over the controls as she and Zeth worked to reinforce the station's defenses. Minutes stretched like hours until finally, the storm began to pass. The alarms quieted, replaced by Phoenix's steady voice reporting system restorations. In the sudden quiet, Juniper became acutely aware of her exposed face. She could feel Zeth's presence behind her, could sense the moment approaching when she would have to turn around. "Juniper," his voice was soft, careful. "Don't," she gripped the edge of the control panel. "Please, I know what I look like, the accident. The plasma burns." "Look at me." "I can't." "Then I'll tell you what I see," he said. "I see someone who just saved an entire research station, who chose others over her own comfort, who's been so focused on hiding her scars that she's hidden her strength too." Slowly, so slowly, Juniper turned. She kept her eyes down, watching his shadow on the floor instead of his face. But then his hand reached out, gently lifting her chin. Zeth's eyes held no pity, no revulsion, only a deep, genuine admiration. "There you are," he said simply. "The real Dr. Nash, even more brilliant without the mask." The tears that slid down her scarred cheeks were the first she'd allowed herself in 3 years. But they weren't tears of shame. For the first time since the accident, standing maskless in the aftermath of crisis, Juniper Nash felt something new unfurling in her chest. It felt remarkably like freedom. 2 weeks after the storm, Juniper stood in her greenhouse, carefully tending to a new batch of Lumina flowers. Their blue glow had grown stronger, almost as if they too had weathered the storm and emerged more resilient. Her mask lay deactivated on her workbench, gathering dust. The transition hadn't been easy. The first video conference with Earth Control had been a test of courage, but Director Harrison's only comment about her appearance had been, "Excellent work during the crisis, Dr. Nash. Your quick thinking saved millions in research and equipment." She touched one of the Lumina petals, watching ripples of light dance through the cluster. A familiar footstep behind her made her smile. "The latest hybridization results are in," Zeth said, approaching with a data pad. "The stellar vine's DNA has completely adapted to the magnetic field fluctuations. It's not just surviving now, it's thriving." "Like someone else I know," he added softly. Juniper turned to face him fully, no longer hiding. The scars that mapped her face had stopped feeling like a shame to bear. They were proof of survival, of persistence, of a life dedicated to discovery despite its costs. "Earth Control sent a message this morning," she said. "They want to expand the research station, build a full xenobotanical institute here. They're asking me to lead it." Zeth's face lit up. "That's incredible. Your work deserves to be shared to help other colonies," he paused, nodding her expression. But it means people, students, researchers, a whole team looking to me for guidance." She gestured to her face. "Can I really be what they need?" "You already are." Zeth moved closer, taking her hands in his. "These past weeks, I've watched you come alive. Your passion for discovery, your brilliance, that's what people will see, because that's what you're finally letting them see. And the scars are part of your story. They show that beautiful things can grow from damage." He glanced meaningfully at the Lumina flowers. "Isn't that what your research proves? That life adapts, transforms, becomes stronger in hostile environments." Juniper looked around her greenhouse at the fruits of years of isolated work. Each plant represented a breakthrough, a moment when she'd pushed past what seemed possible. She'd taught Earth plants to thrive in alien soil, to drink light from strange stars, to bloom in the harshest conditions. Perhaps it was time to let herself bloom too. "There is one condition," she said, squeezing Zeth's hands. "The Institute will need a diplomatic liaison, someone who understands both science and people." His smile was brighter than any bioluminescence. "I might know someone qualified, though he'll insist on regular dinners with the Institute's director." "I think that can be arranged." Later that evening, they stood on the observation deck, watching Kepler 447b's 3 moons paint silver paths across the purple sky. Below them, construction drones were already preparing the ground for the Institute's new wings. Juniper touched her scarred cheek, remembering the weight of the mask she'd hidden behind for so long. The face that looked back at her from the window's reflection wasn't pretty by conventional standards, but it was real. It was hers, and it belonged to someone who had learned that true beauty grew from the courage to be seen. "Ready to change the world?" Zeth asked, standing beside her. Juniper watched a cluster of lumina flowers pulse with light in the greenhouse below, their glow a testament to the possibility of transformation. She thought of all the others like her, hiding their light behind various masks, waiting for permission to shine. "No," she said, taking his hand, ready to show them how. In the garden below, her flowers bloomed bright and unafraid in the alien night, each one a reminder that sometimes the most beautiful transformations begin with a single moment of truth, a simple word of kindness, or the courage to finally let your light shine.